So today, we're going to hack motivation. We're digging into the real science of what drives you, what stops you in your tracks, and maybe most importantly, how you can build a system for a powerful, sustainable drive. You know, one that doesn't just fizzle out after a couple of weeks.
I mean, we've all been there, right? You get that initial burst of energy for a New Year's resolution, a big project, a new fitness plan, and it feels absolutely unstoppable. But then, a few weeks, maybe even a few days later, that spark is just gone. And you're right back on the couch. It's so frustrating. So what's really going on here? Why is it so hard to just stick with what we say we want to do?
Okay, so the single biggest mistake most of us make is treating motivation like it's some kind of lightning strike, this magical feeling we just have to sit around and wait for. But the science on this is crystal clear. That is completely backward. You don't find motivation, you create it. Action isn't the result of motivation. Action is what fuels it in the first place.
Right, so if action is the key, why is it so darn hard to just take that first step? Well, to understand that, we first need to explore why we get stuck. And this brings us to what I like to call the motivation paradox.
First, let's get on the same page with a clear definition. Motivation isn't just a mood, you know? It's the whole cocktail of forces that gets you up and moving. Think about going for a run. An internal force might be your desire to feel more energetic, while an external one could be that it's a beautiful sunny day. It's all part of the engine.
And this quote from James Clear just perfectly captures the trap we all fall into. See, it's not missing a workout that one time that completely derails you. It's missing it that second time because you don't feel like it. That's when quitting starts to become the new habit. And the solution here isn't more willpower. It's a much better system. And every good system needs the right kind of fuel.
Which brings us right to our next section, unlocking your inner drive. As it turns out, there are two very, very different types of fuel that you can use to power your motivation engine.
So on one hand, you've got intrinsic motivation. This is your internal fire. You do something because you genuinely enjoy the process, or it gives you this deep sense of personal satisfaction. On the other hand, there's extrinsic motivation. That's doing something for an external reward, like a paycheck, a good grade, or getting praise from others. Now, both can get you to act for sure, but which one is actually sustainable?
Well, if you look at the data, it's pretty compelling. One study found that people who exercised simply to feel good, that's a pure intrinsic goal, were 32% more consistent with their workouts than people who are only focused on losing weight, which is a classic extrinsic goal. That inner why is just a profoundly more powerful fuel source.
So how do we actually tap into this powerful intrinsic fuel? Well, researcher Daniel Pink points to three core drivers. The first one is autonomy. It's our fundamental need to feel like we're in the driver's seat of our own lives. It's that feeling you get when you get to choose which project you're going to tackle first or decide how you want to approach your workout.
The second driver is mastery. This is that deeply satisfying urge to get better at a skill that really matters to you. And hey, this isn't about becoming the best in the world. It's about that quiet, personal win when you finally nail a difficult guitar chord or you watch a piece of code you wrote just run flawlessly. The real joy is in the process of getting better.
And the final piece of the puzzle is purpose, that drive to connect our day-to-day efforts to some bigger mission. It's what separates someone who's just laying bricks from someone who knows they're building a cathedral. When you get autonomy, mastery, and purpose working together, your motivation engine really starts to sustain itself.
Okay, so now we know that intrinsic fuel is more effective, but why? To answer that, we have to go a little deeper, moving from psychology into biology. We need to talk about the brain chemical that is basically running the whole show, dopamine.
So there's this huge myth out there that dopamine is the pleasure chemical. But that's not quite right. A much better name for it is the motivation molecule. You see, it isn't released when you get a reward, it's released in anticipation of one. It's your brain's internal coach, literally screaming, "Go get that thing, it's important." It is the chemical engine of desire.
And this is where it gets absolutely fascinating. Just look at this chart. You start at your normal baseline level of dopamine. Then you do something rewarding. Maybe you finish a huge project or you get 100 likes on a post. And you get that huge spike you see, the peak. But here's the crucial part nobody talks about. Notice how that third bar, the crash, dips below your original baseline? That trough, that feeling is precisely why you feel so flat, so uninspired, and even lazy after a huge success. Your brain is literally in a motivation deficit.
Now the real danger comes when we get addicted to chasing those peaks.
It's kind of like turning the volume on your stereo all the way up, all the time. Eventually, you go a little deaf, right? And you need it even louder just to hear the music. Well, in the same way, constantly spiking your dopamine actually lowers your overall baseline. Things that used to feel pretty good now feel boring, and you need bigger and bigger thrills just to feel motivated at all.
So, knowing all this, how do we get off this crazy roller coaster? How do we build a motivation engine that's both powerful and reliable without all those constant crashes? Well, it's time for an actionable toolkit.
It really boils down to 3 simple steps. First, we've got to define our intrinsic why to tap into that high-quality fuel. Second, we need to set process-based goals, which give ourselves consistent, small wins. And third, we have to learn to actively manage our dopamine so that we're in control, not our brain chemistry.
Let's start with goals. A vague wish like the one you see on the left, I want to start an online business, is pretty much a recipe for procrastination. But now, look at the right. A SMART goal turns that wish into a concrete plan. It's specific, a virtual bookkeeping service. Measurable, working on it 3 hours a day. And it's time-bound, by March 2025. All of a sudden, you know exactly what to do tomorrow morning.
And this reveals a massive mindset shift. If your only reward is the final destination, you're putting off all of your satisfaction into the distant future. The key is to actually rewire your brain to celebrate the action. The goal isn't just the outcome. The goal is showing up and doing the work today. That's a win you can have every single day, and it gives you this steady drip of dopamine that says, hey, this effort feels good, let's do it again tomorrow.
All right, let's talk about managing our dopamine. Here's a sneaky trap so many of us fall into. You decide you'll only listen to your favorite podcast while you're at the gym. Seems smart, right? You're stacking a reward onto a hard task. But what you've accidentally done is taught your brain that the workout itself isn't rewarding. So now, to feel motivated, you need both. You've actually made the task harder in the long run.
So the surprisingly effective solution is what neuroscientists call intermittent rewards. To keep your dopamine system sensitive and your baseline high, you want to make rewards unpredictable. So sometimes listen to music on your run, but sometimes go without. Sometimes have that pre-work coffee, and sometimes just skip it. When the reward isn't guaranteed, it stops being a requirement for the action, and you start to teach your brain to find the effort itself rewarding.
Okay, so as we bring all this together, it becomes really clear that this goes way beyond just simple life hacks. We aren't looking for a single motivational trick here. We're talking about a fundamental shift in your mindset, about building a personal system that actually works with your biology, not against it.
And this quote from psychologist Carol Dweck just nails this new mindset perfectly. Why waste time proving over and over how great you are when you could be getting better? That gets right to the heart of it. A fixed mindset, it obsesses over the result, over proving you can do it. But a growth mindset, it finds passion in the process, in the stretching and the sticking to it. And suddenly, setbacks aren't failures anymore. They're just data for getting better. So I'll leave you with this one question to think about. Instead of chasing that fleeting feeling of motivation, what is one process in your life? The writing, the coding, the running, the learning. What is one process that you can start to learn to love, starting today? Because that is where lasting drive is truly born.